So this project is partially inspired by the Himalaya. That is a Finnish tradition of taking straw at the end of the season and putting string through it and forming it into connecting them together to make a geometric structure. And the sort of only recorded artist, this is a sort of a traditional craft, but Aja Koske is a Himalaya artist who does show her work. You're actually looking at a video that accompanied her exhibition in Japan. And this traditional art form was often used to sort of celebrate the crops and to celebrate the winter holiday season. Buckminster Fuller is another one of those people who walks the line between art and creativity and architecture and science. And so he does have museums, or I have seen his work in art museums, although he is generally considered an inventor or a visionary. And what he is most known for is the geodesic dome and sort of forward thinking building principles that were working with new materials just off of the Second World War.
Richard Buckminster Fuller was one of the most famous designers and inventors in the 20th century, who had a particular interest towards improving society with his many inventions and ideas. Spanning more than 5 decades, he developed solutions to human problems in designing technologies that do more with less. During his many years working with machinery, Fuller used his comprehensive problem-solving approach to constructing a modular home that was relatively inexpensive and easy to mass-produce on a large scale for the general population. This was called the Dymaxion house. Fuller was ahead of the curve in understanding during his time that efficiencies must be created in how we develop new technologies in order to prevent a scarcity of resources and limiting negative impacts on the environment. This sustainable way of thinking that Fuller adopted in all of his design work went on to being applied to many other technologies, such as the Dymaxion car, which was a streamlined, free-wheeled vehicle that could make extraordinarily sharp turns, a compact, prefabricated, easily installed Dymaxion bathroom, and Dymaxion deployment units, which were mass-produced houses based on circular grain bins. While Dymaxion deployment units never became popular for civilian housing, they were used during World War II to shelter radar crews in remote locations with severe climates. In the middle of Fuller's life work, Fuller designed and developed one of the most significant constructions he is most well known for, the geodesic dome. This was a lightweight, cost-effective and easy to assemble dome structure, which enclosed more space without intrusive supporting columns that other structures bear. The geodesic dome efficiently distributed stress within the structure, thereby becoming a very strong design with the ability to withstand harsh environments. From this point onwards, Fuller gained a lot of understandings from nature by looking at how nature's geometrical patterns can be applied to the design of structures within human society, and by doing so could create huge advantages and possibilities. Today there are more than 300,000 geodesic domes around the world, ranging from shelters in California and Africa to radar stations in remote locations, as well as geodesic structures on countless children's playgrounds. In the early 1950s, Fuller concentrated lecturing on the benefits of a systems approach to problem solving. He coined the now familiar phrase Spaceship Earth to describe the integral nature of Earth's living system. Beginning in the late 1960s, Fuller was especially involved in creating World Game, a large-scale simulation and series of workshops he designed that used a large-scale Dymaxion map to help humanity better understand, benefit from, and more efficiently utilise the world's resources. Fuller's philosophy could be best summarised as being a social thinker, believing that humanity's survival is contingent upon how it manages Spaceship Earth and the resources it contains, and that creating abundance whilst doing little to no harm to the environment would help to alleviate a lot of the problems seen in the world today. His emphasis on a systems thinking approach shaped a way of thinking that adopted the idea that the world is an interconnected system with interconnected problems, and that a way to solve these problems would be to call upon collective action.
Our final artist, Zara Hussein, works with geometric patterns that are inspired by Islamic art and marries that sort of craft or tradition with new technologies.
Islamic art goes quickly into the abstract, and the abstract is very good because it can give you ideas, spiritual ideas, but without being constrained to literal representation. And I think that's the genius of Islamic art. God is beautiful and loves beauty, and we as Muslims try to be beautiful in the way, from the clothes that we wear, from the vessels we drink our water from the carpets that we put our feet on, but also there's a spiritual element that you try and be beautiful in your behaviour. So beauty should be everywhere, and beauty should be for everybody, and it encourages you to be a beautiful person.
For me, it's an incredibly elegant representation of ancient and modern, of Western and Islamic, of digital and analogue, of mathematical and artistic, and it brings all of those fields of exploration and endeavour into one single, simple but beautiful piece.
Simplicity and complexity working together. So you start off from something simple, and with this addition of rules, that simple thing can be changed and made into something very, very complex. And there's a unity, there's a kind of, I would say, a divine unity within the complexity. That's quite fascinating for me. And I think mathematics and the repetition of the same form over and over again is quite an interesting way of exploring it. As human beings, we're all the same. Ultimately, we've got 99.99% of the same DNA almost, but a different sequence and a different order of sequencing for every single human being makes us all vastly different. It was really, really nice to work with people that have got expertise in their specific fields, and to work with young people who are so excited about technology and who love technology. I don't like, people equating Islamic art or Islamic mathematical design with something that was done in the past in these beautiful mosques, and we go there and see them as architectural objects. I think it's something that's alive today. People are practicing, people are drawing, people are making geometric work, people are inspired by it. But I think if the crafts people of yesteryear had access to the technology we've got today, I think they would use it. Of course they would use it. And I think you don't want to get too kind of ossified into the past, and you want to use the technology that you've got at your disposal, but in a respectful way, but at the same time to innovate and to push and to try and see where can we take this, and to try and bring those ideas to new audiences. Art affects different people in different ways, and sometimes you can't put words to what it is that you experience or what you feel when you see art. It's meant to be meditative, it's meant to be reflective, it's meant to be kind of help people become mindful, and to center people, and to kind of calm people down, and to be something that's enjoyable to look at but also has a deeper spiritual kind of effect on you.
The way I would like to think about it is escaping the flow of time. So you can either choose to think of that as kind of a heightened awareness of what's around you in any given moment, or an escape from the kind of, oh, I've got to go home and do the dishes, or I've got to go get up for work in the morning, or whatever. It's a way of suspending.
love that people want to come and do yoga in front of it. It's great, you know. So, and there's quite a few people that, you know, I was there yesterday and there were children just putting their hands up and then putting them down and just, you know, and again, I think once you put your work in a public space, the interpretation, how people engage with it, it's really kind of, it's up to them.
The response is always instantaneous pleasure. You know, people reach for their phone straight away. They want to take photos of it. They want a video of it. They want to take photos of themselves in front of it.
Because you have in your mind what you want it to be, but the way the reality is, and when it's out there, and how people see it, and how people engage with it, it's quite interesting. You know, you don't know what it's going to be.
So you need a scissors, 10 bamboo sticks from that mat, and if they're connected or they're not unraveling the way this one is, you just use the scissors to cut the threads in between them. So get yourself 10 lengths and a ruler and some tape. And then you're going to measure out 4 inches and cut your sticks into 3 pieces, so that you are cutting 4-inch lengths from every stick. So that in the end should be 30 pieces of sticks that are of equal length. You will be welcome to play around with size and the number of sticks, although I want you to start with 30 to begin with. You can do more, you can do slightly less, but not, I would say no less than 25. These are really thin pieces of bamboo, so they're fairly easy to cut with the scissors, but they do like to kind of jump when you do it, so just be prepared to kind of collect them as they shoot across the room. And next, I'm going to use tape to connect them, but I'm going to make sure that I am cutting the tape to look nice and neat. This is a shortcut. Normally, or in the past, I've had students take paper and glue to do these joints, but for this project I'm allowing us to use tape. It gets a little tricky too, it's a little sticky, but I want you to cut it and make sure that it looks fairly clean. And so as you see that I've kind of laid them down, and I fold the tape over, and then I cut away the excess tape. So that is my first joint. I'm making a tetrahedron, or a pyramid, just if you're wondering. And once again, cleaning up the excess tape so that it is so that craftsmanship is an important part of this project. You may find with this video that it's easiest to make your piece along with this. I've sped it up a little bit, but I'm not editing out chunks, so that you can watch a little bit, pause it, complete, your piece so that it looks like the one that I have, and then continue. So now I'm joining those pieces together to create my first triangle. Another important thing too is to clean off your scissors in between if it gets too much tape or sticky stuff on it, it winds up being difficult to use. And you'll see my scissors I'm using is actually a really older pair, and as I move on with this project, it even gets really hard to use the point of it, and I have to kind of switch it. So now I'm cutting little slits into the tape so that I can bend it around each of the spindles that complete this tetrahedron. And that is my first shape. Remember too, as we learned with the mold modeling piece, the piece that you just did, that the tape is fairly moldable. So it's easy to kind of squish it down, make it a stronger connection, and also make it a cleaner connection. So the next piece that I'm going to do is a diamond, or it's basically a two-sided tetrahedron, and I apologize, there's probably a geometric word for that that is escaping me. But that is essentially the layout that will happen to create this. It's going to be the shape that I just created, but sort of two of them, so it'll be pointed on two sides. So I'm repeating that process again. And now for the final sticks to be joined. Notice how I'm leaving the sticky tape exposed because I'm going to use that to connect to the other side. So I've left that extra tab there. And now I wrap it around the final part. So I have my first triangle is set. And now it's just about joining each side to create those points. And I'm cleaning up my tape so that it's as minimal as possible, so it's not obscuring the piece or, making it look clunky. So on this side, I got clever and I cut my tape ahead of time so that I could join each one, and that actually worked a little bit better. You'll find the best working practice for you, but it does seem to be a little bit easier when you cut the tape ahead of time for these pointy pieces. And now here's my second geometric shape. It's not quite perfect. As you can see, some of my sticks were a little bit longer than others, and so it's a little bit off, but that's okay. You don't need to have a perfectly equilateral shape. Trying to remember my geometry here. And now I'm going to make a cube. The tetrahedral shape is actually much stronger. If I was to put pressure on the top of the point of that, it would be way stronger than actually putting pressure on the top of the cube. And as I mentioned, you are encouraged to make your own shapes. If you, after doing the first one, if you decide that maybe you don't want to do a pyramid, or you want to make, as you saw in a lot of the Himalayas at the beginning of this, there were a lot of four-sided pyramids that looked really beautiful. And actually, looks like I scrapped my first version of the cube, and instead, and this is what I would recommend, is just kind of in your head building it and then laying out that shape. And I'm sorry that my video is going a little bit off the edge of the screen, but you will see in a moment that there's sort of 2 extra sticks there to connect to the top to finish the cube form. This time around, I'm actually building the basic structure, and then I'm going to go back and clean up the tape once I have all the original or the early pieces connected. Remember, you have a lot of bamboo too. If you make something that falls apart, or you just have a goopy connection that's not working, just cut yourself some more sticks and start over. You'll get the hang of this. You are going to build 3 unique shapes. This can be exactly the shapes, I guess not so unique, but exactly the shapes that I'm showing you. Or I encourage you to come up with your own. I know I keep saying that. I will say it again, because creativity and inventiveness is encouraged in this project. The end of the tape, that tab there, is left open so that I can attach it to the prongs that you see the other side of the screen. So the end of that video got cut off, but as you can see, or hopefully you can realize, I just attached those two ends to make a cube, and now you're seeing the all the shapes that I made. There's the final one that got cut off a little bit, but it was just attaching those two ends. So those are the basic geometric shapes, and once again, please feel free to experiment. But I want you to make 3 individual geometric shapes, paying attention to craftsmanship. So project 9, part 1 of Structure and Balance is to create 3 geometric shapes following the video or using the techniques used in the video to come up with your own form. You, for materials, need 10 or more bamboo sticks cut to 4-inch lengths. However, you may experiment with shorter lengths if desired. You also need scissors, masking tape, and a ruler. And if you don't have a ruler, please estimate the length and cut all sticks to the same size. So first, you're going to cut your bamboo sticks to approximately 4-inch lengths, and you should have about 30 of those to work with. You're going to connect the ends using masking tape, and you want to make sure to clean up the excess tape and pay attention to craftsmanship. And then you want to make 3 total individual shapes using most of the sticks, or even more. You may follow the video exactly or come up with your own creative geometric forms. In this project, or this part, we are going to take the geometric forms that you made and turn them into a mobile. What you're looking at now is the work of Alexander Calder, and we're going to see a video about his work, and then we will see a video about the artist Ranjit Chattar, who also uses suspension to create works that cast shadows and play with space and suspension. And then you'll see a demo on how to take your 3-dimensional shapes and turn them into a mobile.
Larger than life, bold and dynamic, Alexander Calder's Blue and Yellow Among Reds hovers above the viewer, consuming the space with a spirited performance of vibrant red, blue, yellow, black and white. Spanning over 4 meters, the mobile's circular elements slowly dance, the connecting wires twisting under and over each other while retaining a soft sense of balance. In the late 1950s, spurred on by wide public recognition, Calder began creating awe-inspiring hanging mobiles of an ever-growing scale. As Calder exclaimed, "People think monuments should come out of the ground and never out of the ceiling, but mobiles can be monumental too." Blue and Yellow Among Reds was made in 1964, the same year that the Guggenheim Museum in New York held a major retrospective of Calder's work. It was sold by Pearls Galleries to Bruce B. Dayton, who famously developed the Target Corporation and is renowned for his generosity. He gifted it to the Minneapolis Institute of Arts in 1965. In 1998, Blue and Yellow Among Reds was exhibited at the Fundació Joan Miró in Barcelona to mark the centenary of Calder's birth. Curated by Miro's grandson, this exhibition commemorated Calder and Miro's close relationship, both as friends and artistically. Impressive and graceful, this large, vibrant mobile captures Calder's universe, his own complex personality and great imagination.
Not all artwork that expresses movement or balance is a mobile. Ranjit Chattar creates artwork that mimics natural elements, such as the wind or of organic elements, in suspension, while still creating a static sculptural piece. She's an Indian artist based in Bangalore, and you're going to watch a video where she talks about her work.
Installing an artwork is almost like creating an artwork. It's the lighting, it's the space. A sculpture like this has so many pieces. Bringing them together in a harmony is like choreographing. A slight tilt in angle changes everything. 7 ponds and a few raindrops doesn't represent 7 ponds or raindrops. I use these titles to jumpstart someone's imagination. Nothing is static. Everything is kinetic. Everything is moving at the microcellular level, at the cosmic level. I've become more aware of the delicate nature of things that are around us. I wanted to make something really light, something slightly translucent that could look like it's coming out of nature. By principle, I don't want to use materials that are toxic. Craft traditions are important for me. They need not be specific to India. I have to concoct my own recipe. This piece is all stainless steel and it has fabric over it. And here I use 3 different natural dyes. Madder, it's a root, mud. I've also used alizarin, the pink color. I get really drawn into the texture of the fabric and how they overlap and how they form like a skin. As an artist, when you make something, the material becomes a metaphor too. It's really about bringing out the idea in my mind into a solid form. I didn't start suspending artworks right from the beginning. They started on the floor. I struggled with it for a number of years. I wanted it to be moving, hovering, or at the edge. But sculpture has to be stable. So to counterbalance it, I had to do a lot of tricks. One day it occurred to me that if I lift it up and suspend it, then I might bring that elasticity to the piece. They started having shadows, then they became see-through. You have things almost touching the floor. They started having more engagement with the space around. I like to go through my sculpture in a slow manner, trying to breathe life into a piece, and then it is to be experienced. I want people to pause for a moment when they see my artwork. I'm not trying to preach anything. My artworks are open to interpretation. It's up to the viewer to respond to it in an aesthetic engagement, in an experiential engagement, to look at the fragility of nature and appreciate it a little bit more.
So to start your project, you're going to take your 3 shapes. I have 4 on the table, but I'm going to be using, I made a new 4-sided pyramid, diamond shaped. And you're going to take your 3 shapes and get 3 more bamboo sticks, your tape and scissors. And the first thing you're going to do is attach each of your shapes to one stick. So I'm just cutting a thin strip of tape so that I can tape the end of, and it doesn't matter if it's a side or a point, but you're going to tape a shape to the end of each stick. Lay your 3 pieces out with the smallest object at the top and the largest at the bottom. And then you're going to make a loop in the end of a piece of string. Give yourself about 3 inches. And then tie the bottom part of that string to your top stick. You're going to be tying these tight enough that they don't come unraveled, so tie them in a knot, but not so tight that you can't slip them back and forth around the stick, and you'll see why shortly. So then I'm going to cut another string, and I'm tying it to that first stick. And then to the second one, being sure that there's enough clearance or enough space so that if they swing around, the 2 shapes will not bang into each other. There's enough space between the top rung and the bottom rung for the spaces to float freely. Now I'm going to do the same one more time, getting another piece of string, tying it to this middle stick, and to the final one. Once again, make sure that you give yourself enough space so that you are allowing the objects to move freely when you have the mobile balanced. So there it is. Now we're going to hang this up, and we're going to play around with it to achieve that balance that's so common in a mobile. So when you first hang it up, it's going to be all skewed. That's okay. What you're going to do is you're going to play around with the strings and slide them back and forth until you start getting more balance. It's actually easier. I've done this in reverse. It's easier to start at the bottom. But really it's kind of just playing around with it, taking the time to experiment with where the center of gravity, where that balance is for each one, and then how it interacts with the one beneath it. And so it's just sort of a little bit of sliding it back and forth and then seeing which way it falls and then countering that by sliding it in the opposite direction. Got 2 down, 1 more to go. And I'm going in the wrong direction. There we go. And you can see it's just a subtle movements. Like it's really, you just a little bit too far one direction or the other, and you are off balance. There you have it. There is a balanced mobile. I'm going to try to perfect it. So once you've gotten it balanced, then what I want you to do is to, you can take the glue stick and actually put glue on all of the knots. That helps them to stay in place and to keep from unraveling. So there, it's a little bit goopy. And it'll, you know, make things move and set things off. You'll have to go back and kind of readjust it afterwards. But that glue just kind of helps keep things in place and keeps those knots from untying. Because the next thing we're going to do is cut the little tails off the string so that we clean up the sculpture and they're not distracting, and we really just look at the geometric spaces. Since craftsmanship is important in this project, please take a minute to clean up extra bits of string, anything that may be in the way. You also are welcome to play around with the lengths of the sticks. If I was to go back in and cut an end of a stick off to make it shorter, it would throw everything out of whack, but that's okay because we can easily go back and forth and realign for balance. So if you're interested in a greater challenge, try having 3 different stick lengths. And then you can just kind of blow on it to see it reacts. Once it's in balance, it actually is very responsive to wind. And so just a little bit of a breeze will make this move. And I would love it if you will take a video of your work so that we can see it in action, that we can see it actually being a kinetic moving sculpture that reacts to the wind. Kinetic meaning a sculpture that moves. Kinetic is about motion. So kinetic sculptures have employed movement in them. And notice that I've set up a brown background. That's just so you guys can see the actual sculpture. And when you when you take a video of this, when you video this for me, please consider the background. Are you, maybe you turn off all the lights in your room and put a strong light on the piece so that it lights up and the dark room looks black, or that you have a dark background that you can take a video of it in front of. Or if you're doing this in a doorway, what's on the other side of the doorway, if you just shut off the lights and have the lights on in your room, you will create some contrast so that it is easy to see the pieces and see your work. So the project is Project 9, Structure and Balance, and you're going to use the 3 geometric shapes you created in part 1 of this assignment to create a mobile using the techniques demonstrated in the video. So what you're going to need is your 3 geometric shapes, 3 bamboo sticks, string, glue stick, and scissors. And you're going to tape each geometric shape to one of those bamboo sticks. So then you'll have 3 shapes taped to 3 sticks. You're going to lay the shapes with the sticks out on top of each other so that the smallest one is at the top, and then next is the middle-sized one, and the largest one is at the bottom. And then you're going to tie a loop in the end of a 3-inch string and tie the other end to the top stick. Then you'll tie a string between the top stick and the middle stick, and then one more string between the middle stick and the last stick. The whole time making sure that you allow for enough space so that this mobile can spin freely. Hang your mobile up using the top loop. If you don't have a hook in your ceiling or someplace where you can hang it, think about a doorway. That's a great spot to use because it allows you to access it from either side. And often doorways have a little thing that you can kind of hook in the top of it or do something. Please be safe and do not destroy, put nails where you shouldn't. But once you have it hung, then you're going to start at the bottom and slide the knots back and forth on the sticks until you achieve balance. So that takes a little bit of patience and a delicate hand. You're going to slide them back and forth, and then you're going to work your way up the mobile till everything's in balance, and then you'll fine tune. Then cut off those little extra strings. Use some glue to keep those sticks in place, and take a video of your work and upload it to VoiceThread by Sunday night at 11:59 p.m. All right, I look forward to seeing your last project. We will use this in critique, so this will be something that your classmates will see, and I am excited to see the results.